Hello and welcome everybody to this webinar. I'm Avis Raza, your host, and I hope you are all okay and doing well. So, this webinar is organized by Linguistics and Pedagogy Webinars, in which we host international webinars with speakers from different countries and, of course, participants from different countries. So, I welcome you all and good evening, good morning, good afternoon to whichever part of the world you are right now. So, for first, I will be telling you about the process in which the webinar will be conducted. So, webinar is comprised of three parts. In the first part, we will have the presentation by our speaker, and then we will move towards Q&A session. In Q&A session, it has also two parts. In the first part, we will take some questions from the registration forms. Those are basically the questions which were asked by the people who filled the registration form. Then we will take some live questions as well. Those live questions you will be commenting in the live chat. After that, we will be discussing and telling you about the process of certificate distribution, and we will let you know how to do that and how you will be eligible to get the certificate. So stay tuned till the end of the webinar, and I hope you enjoy and learn something new. So let's welcome our honorable speaker, Miss Sheela. Hello, ma'am. How are you?
Hello, Avis. How are you? Uh, Good evening,
Ma'am,
everybody. Can I introduce myself, Avis?
yes, ma'am. You can start with introducing yourself and then
Yeah.
continue.
I'm Sheela Rani Simon, and I'm an assistant professor in English, and I teach in an engineering college in Hyderabad, Telangana state, India. And I've been teaching for about almost 20 years now, and teaching is a passion with me. And also, I have been a research scholar at Osmania University, Hyderabad, and I'm due for my viva this year, and I think that's about it because teaching engineering students and uh, degree students with regard to communication is something that I love doing. So I think teaching is something that is a passion with me. Do I start, Aviz? The
Yes,
topic
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You
for
shall start.
Can we start? Yeah, the topic that I chose for today's webinar is how to be an effective speaker. Okay, how to be an effective communicator. Now, I, I the minute I say communication, probably the idea of being able to express yourself concisely, clearly, is, I think, comes with a lot of effort for some of us. And I guess this is the reason why I chose this topic, because we have to know the difference between just communicating and effectively communicating. So if I can just quickly share my slides with you people. uh, my first slide is about how, I mean, there are certain things that you should know. I named the slide as do you know what this entire process of effective communication is all about. So I have some stats here that will probably help you understand this entire idea of why effective communication is the need of the hour. If you look at the slide, we have certain percentages written out here saying that communication is an effort, is an art, is something that you and I should learn, because we have communication that is so important in all spheres of life. For example, we have if we have to deal with effective communication when we are dealing with people at home, people at work, yeah, people in society. And you will see that 70% of our communication efforts that we make are misunderstood, misinterpreted, disliked, distorted. So there are certain things that we'll have to keep in mind, and this slide tells you exactly why effective communication is something that we'll have to work on. It is said that we'll have to give importance to not only what we say but how we say it. So our tone, our non-verbal communication all falls in place. But I would say everything with regard to communication has something to do with a product, has something to do with a result. So if we are better communicators at workplace, then we have a lot of scope for improvement, lot of scope for success. If we are better and effective communicators in our college, at our in our classrooms, as students, probably that will help us bond with our teacher, help us be more productive. And you will see in the slide that effective communication can increase productivity by 25%. This is a research that I have gone through some months back, and I figured out that this percentage of that is quoted on the slides is something that is out of my research. I have found out that effective communication does help us succeed in life. It is not just communication. And in my slides further, I will show you what is the slight difference between communication and effective communication. So if we can run through the slide, you will see that 33% of people say that communication has become more of a challenge these days, given the kind of situation we are in, given the kind of challenges that we have to face due to the lockdown and stuff. There are lots of things that the teaching community has to undergo, and yet at the same time deliver lectures that are effective. If I can go to the next slide, you will see in a nutshell what I mean by effective communication, how it affects our future. See, if you notice, I've said communication is a skill, is an art form. Why do I call it a skill? Because it is something that we'll have to navigate through. If people have to listen to us, if people have to give us their reply, we also have to know how to go about that conversation, how to strategically wade through a conversation. You find that communication also has an impact on the job market, job opportunities that we tell our students. We are training the students because they have to get a job in the future. We are making them industry ready, we are making them global citizens. And how are they going to excel? It is only through communication. The kind of knowledge that we are imparting, the content that we are giving them, I think that's the best that we are doing. But are we also telling them how to use this knowledge, how to be able to effectively get across the idea or the thought or the feeling or emotion, whatever that is that they want to communicate? And you will find that communication is like, if I can use an analogy here, if we buy a cake and we have a beautiful icing on the cake, I would say the icing is communication. I would say the entire selling point of your professional studies is the communication that you have with you, the skill that you have with you, in order to reach out to your boss at the at the office, or maybe reach out to a lot many other speakers and audiences. So your knowledge has to go through a means of communication. And you will see that the vast majority of people spend between 80 to 90% of their time communicating with each other. So that brings us to the point of how effective we need to be in our speech or in our communication. See, I would here, before I tell you what exactly I mean by effective communication, I would also like to say that in language, most of you know that we have the LSRW language skills: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And we see how we teach our students how to listen, actively listen, so that their speaking improves, how important it is for them to read so that they are actively, you know, write and involve themselves in discussion and come out, what do I say, with a better skill that they probably had before. So, listening, speaking, reading, and writing are four skills that, as teachers of communication and teachers of English, we try to see that, students are well versed with these four language skills. If you look at the slide here, you will find that there are certain phrases that I have put in red in a different color, and again going back to the statement that I'm saying, that communication has to be meaningful, has to be interactive, yeah, and is an art of transforming or transferring or transmitting information. And that is what we know what communication is. But look at effective communication. Now that changes, that very word effective. If you look at Cambridge English Dictionary, you will find that effective means successful. Effective means achieving the results that you want. Effective means the power to produce an effect. So that changes the way we look at communication. So effective communication now would mean information. How is that information received by our audience? We'll have to change our perspective. We'll have to look at the way the audience receive what we are trying to say. Number one. Two, have they understood what they have received? That makes it effective communication. Three, if they have understood, they should be able to share it with others. I hope I'm making myself clear here. So, communication on one hand is just the process of having a meaningful interaction with people. Yeah, it's a transmitting of information, ideas, and knowledge, feelings, emotions. But if you just shift focus to effective communication, you will find that the word effective would or should result in something that you want, in something it should translate into producing an effect. So there are three things we'll have to keep in mind. One, effective communication should result in shifting focus to what your audience think. Have they received your message well? Two, have they understood what they have heard or what they have read? Three, if they have understood, they should be in a position to share it. So, communication is an art because we have to navigate through conversations, have a repartee, exchange information, question, answer, share ideas. Yep. So, my focus would shift from communication to effective communication. Now, if you ask me why communicate effectively, there are umpteen reasons. I have just put them onto the slide here, and you will see that the topmost rung at which communication should be effective is because we need to better relationships, we need to have good bonding, we have to price people's relationships. It is essential for social influence. Look at the choice of words I have used: social influence. So we are trying to influence people, we are trying to persuade people to do what probably you want them to do. It helps in conflict management, it helps in career development, it helps in building trust, success, effective leadership, problem solving, minimizing workplace communication. If you ask me, communication, on the other hand, if it is ineffective, then it leads to miscommunication. I hope this is very clear. So If we do not communicate effectively, then there is a scope for all the miscommunication to occur, and miscommunication can ruin all what I have said, ruin relationships, ruin career prospects, ruin success, ruin your leadership qualities. So I would say these are the outcomes or the result of being an effective communicator. Then what about communication in the workplace? Ultimately, what happens is in our formal and informal setups, most of the time in our informal setups, talking to friends and peers and our own family, they kind of put up with whatever we have to say. But if you have to look at the formal communication, which is more or less the workplace, the place where you are going to work for the rest of your life after your education, if I have to pitch that uh, scenario to the kind of teaching we do in our classrooms, then we as teachers have to be aware how these employees view communication at their workplace. And here also you will see there are certain companies that I have put in bracket, which says 74% of employees feel they are missing out on company information and news because there is not much of communication happening at the workplace. Then engaged employees could cost organization over $450 billion per year. This is something again from the research that I have found out. So you find that employees, when they do not talk to each other, it's incurring losses for the organizations. Then you find also that in the university, Queen's University, this is another stats that I would like to highlight. 39% of the employees believe that people in their organizations don't collaborate enough. So why is there no collaboration? Because there is no communication happening. Why is there no teamwork? Because there is no communication happening. And 33 of employees say that there is a lack of open, honest communication not happening in their workplaces, and therefore the morale of the employee is down. It impacts the morale of the employee in a very negative way. This is the view of the recruiter. We have in our engineering colleges, we have recruitments happening for our third and fourth year students, and we kind of prepare them for that kind of a job recruiting process. And most of them say, ma'am, I am so good with my knowledge of my subjects, my core subjects, my technical subjects, but when it comes to actually exhibiting my knowledge through the medium of English, through the medium of knowledge, through communicating that knowledge, I fail, because I find myself groping for words. I find myself not able to be clearly stating what I am or what I wish to state. So the entire onus or the burden lies on the teachers, language teachers, as to how you would mold your students to prepare them for a job in the future. So here is a snippet of a workplace communication benefit. So how do we generally view workplace communication, and how, if communication is effective, is going to benefit us? It'll lessen misunderstandings. It'll improve productivity. If I can go back to the slide where I said in the very beginning, the 25% of an employee or a person's productivity increases if you have effective communication. So that's where I'm saying the benefits of effective communication at the workplace is to improve productivity. It is also to collaborate more. If you are, who would not want to talk to people who have a flair for the language, who can exhibit their intelligence and their knowledge very easily, understandably. in a language, in the simple way that we understand the language. So that increases collaboration. Then increase in knowledge sharing happens. Then better company morals are created. High employment employee engagement is, so you have a lot of people talking to each other. There's a nice conducive environment created at the workplace, and strong bonding and job satisfaction happens. So I guess we have a lot of advantages if we have to look at uh, communication being effective. Now, this is where I would like to draw your attention to. When was the last time you felt drained after speaking to someone and still wasn't sure they understood you clearly? In my classes, I tell my students how some of them speak for nearly half a minute, and I as a teacher and some of my other students are really trying to understand what they have said. In my language, I've coined a term. I said it is fluent rubbish. you know Fluent rubbish. That is, they said a lot, but what have they said? At the end of the day, nobody understands. So most of the time what we are doing is we are talking, but we are not clear with what we have to say. And after we said so much, there is still a question in the receiver's mind as to what exactly was being told. So we should we should also understand that there is a difference between fluency and understandability. You should Fluency is not speed. Fluency is being able to clearly state what you have to say in the simplest form. My next question is, have you found yourself groping for words while expressing your feelings and ideas? Oh yes, this is a problem with most of my students, because they read less. So their vocabulary is limited, and you find that they are very good with expressing themselves in their mother tongue, L1, but when it comes to L2, which is English, they find inadequate when it comes to vocabulary. So I guess vocabulary building is a big thing. We'll have to really spend time to make them realize that everything that they feel or everything that they wish to express should be put in words. I guess this is the essence of effective communication. We should be able to express our feelings exactly the way we feel. There's no translation happening. Now, what are the things that we have to keep in mind when we are actually thinking about effective communication? One, body language, non-verbal communication. Am I making eye contact? Am I gesturing positively? Am I looking at everybody? Am I having a body posture which is positive, which is receptive? So there is research also says that people take your non-verbal communication more seriously than your verbal communication, and we have seen that in our daily conversations with people. If somebody says they are not feeling if somebody looks unwell and they are not really up to the mark, but yet they say they are okay, you will go with what they have said non-verbally. Yeah, so you find that body language is something that we all have to work towards. So if we have to make our students effective communicators, if we have to be effective communicators, then we also have to keep an eye on the kind of non-verbal communication that we are also trying to exhibit. Then listening out of, I was talking to you about LSRW, and listening comes first, and it's a passive skill, and you will find that it's the most neglected skill out of the four. And if I have the liberty to say, we hardly listen. In fact, we listen to speak. We are in a hurry to say something. If we are in a conversation, you will find that we are waiting to take turns to speak. We hardly listen. So I guess we'll have to teach our students, we ourselves have to be active listeners. When I say active listeners, listen to the content and not listen to look at distractions of the speaker and stuff like that. Then emotions, this is another very interesting aspect that we'll have to keep an eye on, and I would say keep a tab on, because emotions have what do I say, messed up with our messages, messed up with our conversations. We go overboard when we have to express our feelings, and we kind of underrate the message that we are trying to give. So emotions have to be kept under control. So when we are conversing, when our conversation has to be effective, our emotions have to be at bay. I hope I'm making myself clear. Most of us get emotional, and we ruin the conversation, thereby ruin the relationship. So if we have to value the relationship, then we have to keep our message concise. We have to keep our emotions at a normal level. We have to be active listeners, and we also have to pay attention to the body language that we are exhibiting. So, language skills, so to say, LSRW. My question is, how much of it do we use in order to be effective communicators? How much of listening should we do? How much of speaking should we do? How much of writing and reading should we do? I would say listening and reading move towards speaking and writing. People who listen well speak well. I keep telling my students, if you have to be good speakers, you will have to listen to good language, good speakers. If you have to be articulative communicators in the English language, you will have to listen to a lot of English language. So I kind of encourage them to read the newspaper, encourage them to listen to a lot of English news and broadcasts and stuff. And I also would say, if we have to improve their writing, we'll have to train them to read well as also. So listening, reading has to be a part of the entire effective communication that I'm talking about. So speaking, writing are productive, so it is visible, it is seen by others, but at the same time, the amount of speaking that you do, and you do it well, is a result of how much you have listened, how much you have read. So I guess this is what is all about effective communication. So, why should our communication be effective? That's a good question. I was asking this question to myself. I was saying, Sheila, you're talking so much about effective communication, and how, if I can quickly go to the slide where I said effective communication is, just a second. Yeah, I would like to just go back to the slide where I have said, yeah. Can you see this, please? Right. Uh, yeah. Why should our communication be effective? Uh, if you look at maybe, all right, okay. I will tell you this. If all along I am saying be effective communicators, and the difference between just communication and effectiveness is trying to make an impact on the audience, impact on how much they have understood and how much they are willing to share. This is what I would like to say. Why should our communication be effective? Because we want to reduce the wastage of time. There is so much more we can do with time if we are effective communicators. We get the message across in no time if we know how to value time, and if we know how to communicate effectively in few words and in simple language. So we can reduce time. And I would say, like I was referring to my experience as a teacher, I would say that students should start thinking in English. What happens is, most of the time they are thinking in their mother tongue. Okay, and then probably that thought process they translate that, and then they come out with a sentence in English. So there is a lot of wastage of time. So by the time the speaker loses, or the conversation that is between the two is kind of lost, the interest is lost. So I think effectively communicating your message, your information, can reduce the wastage of time. Then second, reduce wastage of emotions. Yeah, this is something I keep telling my students. There are lots of episodes and reasons why we must keep emotions away from what we want to say. uh, let me just quickly tell you that most of the time, at at the workplace, you find there are lots of things that are happening that you wish it wouldn't happen. Probably promotions, you'll have a lot of success stories. You'll have a lot of clashes that you would want to talk about at your workplace, or probably in your classes among your peers and stuff like that. But you will also see that you convey that message with a lot of emotion. And I would say most of us use communication to bring out the pent up, the bottled up emotions that are there. So I guess when we're talking about effective communication, we'll have to keep a check on our emotions, because people don't value uh, a message loaded with emotion, and less with message, with the actual information. So I guess if you are an effective speaker, you will also minimize the wastage of emotion, so there is no need for you to go overboard and show your anger, or whatever your discontent is. And then it also reduces misunderstanding. Oh boy, this is something that we really have to teach us, our students, or we ourselves have to master or practice. We say a lot of things that we don't mean, and we do that because we find that what we have said has not gone well with our audience. So there is a misunderstanding that has erupted out of our conversation. And this happens because we have used wrong words, we have exhibited probably wrong tone or tenor, or the kind of pitch that we have used. So misunderstanding can be reduced if we keep the paralinguistics, the paralanguage components a little in check. When I mean para language part of it, I mean the tone, I mean the pitch at which you're saying it. Okay, so that reduces to kind of a considerable level the misunderstanding. So effective communication should also involve tone, the way you say it, what you're saying, and how you're saying it. Okay, then it also reduces the loss of relationship. This is something that we have to work towards. Most of our communication, the ultimate goal of communication, if you see the process of communication, you have the speaker and the listener and the message, the coding and the decoding that happens, the encoding and decoding that happens. You find in all this process we are building a relationship, and if we don't use this process effectively, there are reasons why the person wouldn't value you, and the relationship is severed. So if we say things the correct way, the choice of words, the tone of voice, the audibility, the loudness, the construction of sentences, you will save a lot of respect for yourself. At the same time, you will build and bond with people, and relationships grow. So these are the reasons why probably you should be we have to work towards being effective communicators. Then uh, what what are the two major things that you would want to uh, say we can remove out of effective communication is extroverts, verbose. I don't want to be verbose. Probably we'll have to teach our students not to be verbose and extra emotion that goes with it. So you find, if I have to say, then what is effective communication? We have spoken so much of how communication can be effective. Then this is what it is. What is it that we have to do to be effective communicators? One, face to face communication, direct communication. We'll have to we'll have to speak to the person the way you would probably articulate if the person is right in front of you. Make things visible, make things direct. Instead of, here I would also say, when I say face to face communication, I would also say how you should be able to call a spade a spade. I would also say that you do not have to go a roundabout way to actually speak what your mind is trying to tell you to. So I would say caution on not being able to use extra words, but being able to say exactly what you wish to say in the precise, clear manner, and keeping conversations simple. That is the entire idea. Sometimes we miss out on. We think great speakers, we think effective speakers are speakers who use words left, right, and centers, big sounding words, and therefore we feel they are great speakers. No, I would say keeping your message simple is the easiest way to win hearts, is the easiest way to bond with people, is the easiest way to have a good relationship between the speaker and the listener, and the speaker and the audience. So great communicators also frequently ask questions. We should ask questions and give people an opportunity to share their knowledge. So in a conversation, imagine if A is conversing with B and B is only listening without asking any questions, then it becomes a one-way conversation and it gets boring. Yeah, so if we have to keep the conversation going, remember in my first slide I told you communication is an art, is a skill, is an art form. What do I mean by art form? This is it. You should be able to insert questions. You should be able to ask for for ideas. You should be able to question people. You should be able to negotiate. You should be able to thank, compliment. All this makes up a good conversation. And all this makes up for an effective communication as well. When was the last time, if I, when was the last time we probably complimented somebody and made them feel good? So I guess it's more to do with how you feel towards the other person that should actually be propelling you to share your message. So good and great communicators involve themselves in the conversation. Then you also see great communicators give themselves permission to listen to others. I was telling you how active listening plays a huge, massive role in our communication. And the more we listen, the better we get with our language. And this way, you get into you get an idea of how people think. If you're listening, observing, and if you're learning through observation, you will find that their thought process is what you are involved in, and there is a balance between speaking and listening effectively, and this balance is maintained. If you see the last line in the slide, which says Albert Einstein himself said, I'd like to quote Albert Einstein here. He says, if you can't explain something in simple language, if you can't explain simply, you don't understand it well enough. You yourself don't understand it if you're unable to explain in simple language. So simplicity is the order of the day when it comes to effective communication. Now, what message my audience must receive? What is the message my audience must receive if I have to be an effective communicator? One, I would say humility is the key when it comes to effective communication. People will listen to you if you know and value the bond that you share with them. If you know that you they are comfortable asking questions, if you know that you can also go wrong sometimes and therefore listen to the audience. uh, as speakers, we are also learners, and learning is an endless process. It has nothing to do with age, it has nothing to do with experience, it has nothing to do with the kind of setup you have been brought up in. Nothing. Learning is an endless process, and it happens every day. And I would say the way to keep your communication effective is to know that you can also learn from others. And you can learn from others if you listen intently. And in asking, you are only showing that you are polite, you are respectful, you are humble. You're also telling them that knowledge is something that is going to empower everybody, and therefore everybody has to work towards it, and nobody is a master of any kind of knowledge. There is always lots to learn. So the three things that we need to keep in mind, I would say, to make an effective speaker or effective communicator, the message that the audience should receive is definitely the information, the what of your message, the what of your conversation, the what of your communication. That is definitely the knowledge, the content of what you're saying, but also how you say it. Most of our misunderstandings, misinterpretations, distorted versions of what you say is because of the way we say it. And that is what severs relationship. That is what, cracks the bonding that is there between. So what our concentration should be definitely on the message, but also on how we are saying it, and the trust that the audience should have in you. I would, I like this last statement that I make in the slide. Your life story should be in line with what you are trying to say. People will not listen to you if your life contradicts what you are saying. Trust is everything. So if you're saying something, you must believe in what you're saying, and your life story also should be practicing it. So I guess the entire crux of effective communication, the goal of effective communication is to build relationship. The goal of effective communication is to keep the relationship going, the conversation going, to bond with people. And this bonding happens when you are humble, when you show interest, when you are open, and when your audience have the element of trust in you, and that trust is built through your life story. Then, uh, if you look at this in a nutshell, I have given what effective communication is: reading, listening and reading. So if you listen to good English speeches and good language, probably you will be good imitators of the language, because we have told our students, and we ourselves have learned, that we learn a foreign language through imitation, and imitation is the best means of picking up a language. So listen, not for only meaning, but also for the language. So most of the time we are listening to speeches for the meaning and the content, but along with the meaning and content, if we can also listen to the language, probably that will polish our own language as well. Then listen repeatedly, listen to imitate. Then if you come to reading, I would say read everything that is in English. I would tell my students this every day. If you can read anything that you come across, even before buying something off the stands, you read the blurb that is there on the back of the book. So you must read and practice and think in English. So we as teachers, we as professors of the language and teach English as a means of communication to our students, we have to help them think in the language and not translate, like I was saying, because that's what they do. They go back to their mother tongue, translate, and then speak in English. So speaking has to come only through the process of listening, only through the process of thinking. So I would say build on self confidence. Building a self confidence happens when you start speaking the language and you imitate what you have heard, you imitate what you have seen, and fluency works out itself nicely. The more you do it, the more number of times you use the language. And of course, writing, I would say writing has to be a part of your everyday activity. Write whatever experiences you have. In my childhood, I was telling my friends that it's a good habit to maintain diaries. I don't know how many of you connect with what I have to say. We used to write diaries. We used to have our own personal record of what we do and what we wish to do in the future, and maintain some kind of a diary writing thing as an exercise. And I think that has completely gone off track with the generation that we are teaching now. Writing doesn't come so easily with them, because writing is not done as a pleasure activity. It is more like for the exam. So I think writing should go back to being an experience of an everyday situation that each of us face and each of our students face. Again, work on pronunciation. So pronunciation also does matter, and it is very very important to be able to speak intelligibly. We do not want to imitate anybody, so to say, when it comes to pronunciation, but be clear, neutralize accent. So working on pronunciation also is important. And of course, vocabulary building. If I This is a question that I ask my students: how many of us literally go back to the dictionary and open it and look for the meaning in the word? I have a complete silence in the class, because I guess dictionary was part of their school life. No longer do they go back to the dictionary. In fact, I would say technology has helped them and helped us in a huge way. We have everything in the cell phone. You just have to click and go to the dictionary and find out. But I would say vocabulary is built through reading. The more you introduce reading to them, reading novels, reading magazines, reading content books, reading everything that you can, making that a habit, vocabulary automatically improves. So I'm almost coming to the conclusion of my speech. Effective communication, I would reiterate this, saves time, saves emotions, saves relationships, and aren't these worth saving? I would want you to think about that. So I would say I have a quick slide for you on this. So I think I've come to the conclusion of my presentation. So that's how we become effective communicators of the language. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. That was a very wonderful presentation. And I think you wanted to share a book with the audience also.
Yeah. I have a beautiful book, because this is where my teaching methods have come about. This is a book which says Approaches and Methods in Language Teaching, by Jack C. Richards and Theodore Rogers. This has helped me in teaching my students. So this is a beautiful book you can lay your hands on. and it teaches you how to go about your classroom teaching, so to say.
All right, thank you, ma'am. And that was a very wonderful session. So before
Thank
moving on to our Q&A session, I have noted some points from your lecture. So correct me if I am wrong. So the main things which I got and learned, and also many audience would also have learned those as well. So the first thing, for to be a effective communicator, we should be clear, and
you.
we
Absolutely.
should be humble, that like we are not always right, we can be wrong
Yes.
sometimes, so it's okay, we should be
Yes.
humble. And we should listen to others in order to understand them properly, and also to learn from them. If they are communicating really good, then we should like
Yes.
try to actively and consciously learn that what they are doing which is making them so effective at communication. So we should also try to learn from them as well.
Absolutely.
And also to build vocabulary. Basically, vocabulary is something which is used for communicating the ideas. So we need to
Yes.
like
Yes.
good amount of that as well. So we should build our vocabulary, and mostly through reading we can uh, work on our vocabulary very well. So it will keep it interesting, and also we will be learning at the same time. So, okay, so thank you for your presentation. Now we will move towards the Q&A session. So
Sure.
first I will add the questions from registration form, and then we will move towards live Q&A session, right? So these are the
Okay.
questions from it. So the first question goes like, what to teach students to be effective communicators? Like in classroom, what should we teach students to be effective communicators?
Like I said, communication is through the means of the language English. That's our target. So we have LSRW. So I would say, as teachers, our thrust should be on these four skills. What do we teach students? We teach them vocabulary through reading. We we teach them listening through asking them to listen to good speeches. So listening, active listening happens there. They pick up pronunciation as well. And I would also say, in our classroom, in the limited time that we have, if we can show them a video, if we can involve them in a discussion, make it more real life oriented instead of making it a lecture all the time. I would say, put them on on the spot, give them a discussion to actually exercise. I think that'll bring all the four skills into practice. Listening happens in conversation. You speak and you bring out your content through whatever reading you have done. So I guess, put the students in an activity and you see the transformation that can happen, and literally would see them become effective communicators.
Right. So by putting them in different activities which involve
Yes,
speaking, listening, it would be great for our students. All right.
that's right.
So the second question is how to compose yourself when reporting to your class or professor. Like it is a problem of a lot of students. Like they lose their confidence, they stutter or something, like they become confused when talking or speaking to teachers, especially. So what would be advice for that?
Say, I told you, learning through imitation is a great mantra, if I can say. It's the magic that can happen. So I would say, if you have to learn how to present yourself, look at people. Watch people, how they present themselves, how they talk. By observation, I think 80% of your task is done. So you imitate by looking at people. So if you find that there are confident people around you, maybe it can be a friend, it can be a teacher, it can be another colleague of yours, watch their body language, watch the way they carry themselves, watch the way they speak. I think that's a great lesson. Learning through imitation is one of the greatest ways of picking up confidence. So I said, I think we'll have to imitate people, look at people, and learn from them.
Yes, right. So it may be also like helpful, like when we are doing something as acting, kind of it like takes the burden away from us, and like we are in a
Yes.
character. so it
Yes.
will boost our confidence,
It'll
right?
boost your confidence. And I would say confidence building happens only when you're active. So when you imitate, you're not doing it only non-verbally. You are also putting yourself into action. So when you're looking at somebody, probably see, like when we watch movies, we would like to use dialogues that the film stars use, and we use it the same way they would have used in their movies. So also when you pick up a language, you imitate somebody who has been a good speaker of that language, and it comes out very easily. In fact, some of my students, Avis, you will find that they are so what do I say, glued to these videos that are there on the net, and they imitate them so well. In fact, they sound like native speakers of English when they have to do a video themselves, and that comes and that works magic for their confidence. Confidence building happens when you speak and when you imitate people whom you love and have a role model for.
Right. So now let's move to the next question. How can I get engaged how can I get engaged all the students in a big class in the speaking class effectively? Like there
Okay.
is a problem mostly in like third world countries or
Mhm.
like the countries like Pakistan. In Pakistan, we also have classes in which there are batches of 100 students and
Oh
there is
my
only
God.
one teacher for that
Yeah.
class. So in many other countries, it's also the same case. So what would be advice for the teachers who
Uh,
are
yeah.
teaching a big
This is,
class?
I think, for a huge class, large class is definitely a problem, and it's a problem with almost all countries, I guess, where population is big, is huge. I would not provide a permanent solution, but I would definitely say for a large class, breaking them down into teams. This is what I do. See, I have a class of 60 students, and I cannot tackle all 60 students at one time. So I put them into groups of 10 each. And each team gets an activity to do. Maybe this week they do a presentation on a topic that I've asked them to research on. Next week, I involve the second team in a discussion. The other next week, I put them into role plays. So there is a debate. So what we can do with the problem of large classes, the only strategy that we can use is break them down into teams
Like divide
and
and
give
rule.
them team activities. So when one team is performing, you will find the entire class engaged watching them to perform, because they will be the next to go up. So it becomes interesting, and
Right.
teacher is not on the focus all the time.
Okay. So like for big class, we need to divide it into smaller groups and then
Teams,
involve
yes.
all of them.
Yeah.
Right. So now the next question is how to be an effective communicator in the classroom, particularly that we have diverse learners. Like in case of like their individual differences aside, but also the languages which they speak and
Yes,
the
multidisciplinary.
background, like
Mm,
education background
mhm,
they come from. These are different.
mhm.
So like, what would be the approach for that kind of?
Uh, yeah, see, we have learners from all walks of life, especially in India. The composition of the classroom is, you have people from Tamil speaking Tamil, you have people speaking Malayalam, you have people speaking Telugu, you have people speaking Urdu, you have people coming from all different mother tongue backgrounds. Now, my goal as an English teacher is to see that I maximize the 60 minutes that I have to make them speak only English. So what I do is, I would say, every time there is an activity that I ask you to do, you will correct the person who speaks in any other language among yourselves. So if there is somebody who's trying to speak in Telugu or Tamil to his own friend, he will say, he will correct them. So the correction happens among themselves, and at the same time, I, as a teacher, would monitor the activities that I have given them in teams. So what happens is, most of the time, the discussion that is happening between them, amongst them, is in English, because you have their own friends correcting you. Ma'am, she's speaking in Telugu. They
Mhm.
report back to me. So
Yes.
they wouldn't want their name coming up to ma'am because they are speaking some other language. So if you make it competitive among themselves and allow peer correction to happen, I guess that's an effective way of making them speak the language. People, especially coming from diverse learners backgrounds.
Right. So now moving towards last question from the registration form, then we will be taking some live questions from
Okay.
uh, live chat from the people watching on YouTube. So, what is the role of digital age in communication? Does this age of technology helps or deteriorate effective communication? Like there are a lot of online classrooms,
Mm-hmm.
online people are taking online classes and all that, especially because of COVID-19, and even
Oh yes.
after the pandemic, people have continued to like have online classes for various courses, and like so, what is the role of effective communication or the technology on effective communication?
um, I would say change is the only thing that doesn't remain constant. I would say we'll have to adapt. See, this pandemic has taught teachers how to adapt to digital teaching, going online and teaching. I guess technology should be used in order to be able to make your teaching effective. Let's not view technology as something that is impinging on our teaching, and we are not in a live class teaching there. But I would say technology, if there was no technology, probably online classes also wouldn't have been possible.
Right,
So a technology, we should be able to use technology for a better reason. So I would definitely say, I use, there is something called Mentimeter, Kahoot. These are tools that you use online to make your students interactive. So the quizzes that I have to see, for example, if after I teach the class I have to recap what I have taught, I make them answer some quiz questions on Kahoot or Mentimeter. So they are allowed to use a cell phone in my class. Then they have the option of using the cell phone and ticking the answers, or taking technology in a way that can help learning happen. So I would say, let's we should not blame technology, or we should not say technology is taking away our livelihood. And no, I would say the very reason that we could sustain as a teaching fraternity in the pandemic is because of technology. If technology wasn't there, probably teaching and education would have had a complete breakdown. So digital, making use of technology even in the classroom can happen, and it must happen, because the youngsters we teach are all born with technology, and they wouldn't want to keep it aside.
right.
So
All right. Thank you very much. So these were the questions from the registration form. Now we will like continue the session for 15 to 10 more minutes, like to
okay.
take some questions from the live chat. So the viewers are requested to comment in the live chat their questions, and then we will be asking ma'am about those questions. So, and after this Q&A session end, we will like start the certificate distribution process, and we will tell you how to get it. So kindly type your questions if you have any in the live chat. All right, so let's wait for a while. I have seen a question from Ma'am Asha earlier, so let's see if that is still available. Okay, so we have got our first question is how can teachers change their mindset about being right all the time?
I think this is a challenging question, if you ask me, because most of the time we teachers think we are right all the time. And the change has to happen, because I in my presentation I said learning is a never-ending process. So if the teacher thinks that she is the knowledge giver, I think that's the most unfortunate thing to happen, because we as teachers learn from our students as well. And one of the greatest what do I say, blessing in teaching is because you are connected to a generation that is constantly teaching you every day, every now and then, every generation you pick up something. So I think teachers' mindset has to change. If they themselves read, we have teachers who are teaching the content year after year, the same content year after year, year after year. So research hasn't been a major part of their teaching. I would say the mindset of the teachers will change when they themselves are learning. So if they go back to researching, if they go back to reading themselves, I think they will understand how small a dot we are in the entire gamut of knowledge.
Right. So they have to become lifelong learners in order to like
Yes.
change their mindset. Right.
Yes.
So our next question is from John. He asks, "What is the role of environment in shaping the person to become an effective communicator?"
Oh yeah. Environment. I hope this word environment is limited to the classroom setup and the background of the student at home and in class. I would say it does have an influence. It does impact the learner in a huge way. Uh, if you can identify with the phrase peer pressure, the you are known. I'm reminded of the phrase, you are known by the company you keep. So what you become is what you have learned from people around you. So I would say the environment you have been brought up in, the kind of learning that you have been exposed to through your schooling, all has a bearing on your personality. And that definitely and I would say, see, in my schooling we had something called a library hour, where students were allowed to go pick a book of their choice and sit down and read and have a nice time reading, or they would also go to a digital room where they watch their videos, and that freedom was given to them. So I think the setup in which you have been brought up in school and at home, if there are people who are speaking the language, your siblings, your parents, in English, automatically you will find that you are in an environment that is going to really shape your own communication skills. So, yes, definitely, environment does play a major role.
Right. So let's move on to another question. Is there a way to objectively assess effective communication, like for teachers to assess how well their students are?
Okay, yeah, this is a good question. I would say I was reading a book the other day on assessments. Yeah, by Jack Thompson, I guess, if I can quote that name properly. Assessment. It says in that book, you must teach only what you wish to assess. I like that phrase. You must teach only what you want to evaluate. Most of the times, what we are doing is we evaluate what we teach. So I guess if we are wanting our students to be effective communicators, we also have to keep in mind how we are going to assess their effective communication. And that happens not through a test, but through an everyday process.
Like
You, it's
formative
a
assessment.
Yes. So in your classroom, every day, like we have a semester of 4 months, we teach 4 months. You have something called a pre-test and a post-test. So when they actually get into the class, into the course, I guess you'll have to give them a pre-test if you have to objectively assess the kind of language skills they have come with. And then after your course, if you give them a post test, your objective assessment of what you have taught them can be weighed.
Right.
And always I would also say assessment happens on a daily basis. You keep telling your students and you keep seeing your students become more proficient in the language. So
Right.
I guess assessment is something that should happen more often than just limit itself to examinations towards the end.
Right. Very true. So now towards the next question, what approach is effective in teaching English virtually?
Um I would say task based approach. That would be my one word answer. Task based approach. Unless you put your students through a task, make it more relevant to the real life situation, he will never become an effective communicator. So I would say, if you have to make him use the language, you put him in a situation where he'll actually use the language. So give him tasks, involve him in discussions, involve him in debates, make him write maybe I would say a report on something. Maybe make him the editor of the magazine that you probably wish to bring out. You actually give them something to do. So make them active participants, and you'll see the effectiveness that it has on the language teaching as well. So if you say virtual classroom, again I would say every task that you give has to be followed up with an activity. You show them a discussion, or you show them a clipping of a movie. You ask them to write something on it. So you're making it relevant to them, to the learning, as well as to the real time experiences that they can have
Right. So like involving them some kind of activity or the task,
all the
even in
time.
physical or virtual classrooms, they
Yes,
should
yes,
be
all the
involved
time.
in using the language. All right. So this comes from a person like he's facing some problem with he or she facing some problem with dialect, like she wants to have like speak English correctly. So what would be the strategy for this person?
Okay. See, if you have in India now, what is doing the rounds is NEP 2020, National Educational Policy 2020. So far, what we were doing is we were saying we will not use bilingual method to teach. We will allow only English to be taught. But the change is happening now to bring in multidisciplinary approach, multilingual approach to teaching. So I would suggest, as a strategy, as an experiment strategy, to be able to minimize your own dialect, your own language, but at the same time use it when you are really forced to. So probably you do not know some words in English. In order to actually articulate that feeling or that emotion, I would say translate that to the nearest possible meaning that can happen in your own mother tongue. So I would say there is something called mind mapping, word mapping that we do. So there is one word and many words that are closer to it. So choose your simplest word that you can, in order to translate what your feeling is, what your emotion is. So I would say it's something that you'll have to work, and practice makes you better. It is, yes, it is difficult initially to use both languages, but as time passes, you'll see how your own mother tongue will be reduced, and you will improve on speaking English by listening and by actively watching people do it. So yes, you can use a multilingual approach initially, but we are moving towards the target language.
All right. So now we will be moving to our last question for this webinar. And thank you, ma'am, for
Yeah,
addressing all these questions, and thank you
my
very much,
pleasure.
and also audience for asking these questions and becoming interactive. So, which is more important for effective communication, accuracy or fluency?
Oh, yes. This is something that we always mistake. We mistake accuracy and fluency for effective communication. I would say fluency is being able to say exactly what you wish to say without groping for words, without stopping hesitatingly to fit in something that you don't know. So I would say if you're able to talk without hesitation, without those and repeated words, I think you have acquired fluency. And fluency is not speed. Fluency is not about saying or speaking the language like that. Fluency is about being able to articulate exactly what you wish to, and in the simplest way. So, effective communication, yes, if you're an effective communication, you obviously will be fluent in the language, because that is what is the goal of effective communication. It leads to fluency.
It's true. So before ending this session, I would like take just one more question, and we will then conclude the session. So, like, can putting funny lines helps teachers improve their communication skills, like during lecture if they are putting in some jokes or something?
Um, like a joke or something when you mean funny lines.
Ah, yes.
Why not? I mean, see, language is something that is so integral to our living. We use language to entertain people. So I think jokes is something that will definitely make people laugh. In fact, you will find that you will have the attention of the audience more, even more, if you have those funny lines inserted. And I would say humor is definitely a good weapon to be able to improve the language skill of your students, but with caution, because not all of us are good at cracking jokes. So I guess if you really have a funny bone, you can go ahead and use that.
Right. So thank you, ma'am, for answering all the questions. And like it was a really wonderful presentation. We learned a lot, and
My
by
pleasure. Likewise.
listening to the answers of these questions, like it added to the already information you gave. So thank you very much, and like
Thank you.
we hope to
Thank
see
you.
you next time as well. If
Yeah.
there would be some topic or
Oh,
something.
thank you, Avis, for giving me this opportunity. It was a wonderful experience, and kudos to you for doing such a great job. So, God bless you. Thank you so much. Thank
Thank
you,
you, ma'am.
everybody. Thank you.
And ma'am, some message for
Yes.
the viewers or something.
I would say, like I said before, learning happens every day, and we only have to be receptive. And the ultimate goal of learning is to build relationships. So, I would definitely say communication should help you have good relationships, better relationships, and increase the kind of bonding we share with others. Because unless you speak your mind out, your heart out, people will never know who you are and what you are. So I guess the essence of communication is human relationship. So,
Right.
so that is what we should work towards.
Yes,
Thank you
ma'am.
so
Very
much.
beautiful message. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are officially uh, done with our webinar, and I hope you guys have learned a lot. And it was really a wonderful presentation given by Ma'am Sheela. So now we will move towards the certificate distribution process. So first, I will explain it to you. So like first I will be if you are online through uh, the YouTube application or from browser directly on YouTube, you will be able to see the feedback form link in your chat box or the live chat box in which you are commenting right now. So I'm going to send in a minute, send the link in comment section in a minute. and then you guys have to click on it and fill it. So just let me send you the link of the feedback form, and make sure that you write the correct information. Like your name will be required, your email address. So make sure you put in the correct name, like that name which you type in will be directly added to the certificate. So make sure you use the right capitalization and you do not make any mistakes in the name. So just let me create the form and send the link to you. Okay, so everyone, we are done with the webinar, and now I'm going to send the link of the feedback form. In short, if you fill that feedback form, we will have your data, your name, and your email address, so we will be able to send you the certificate. And also, you can give compliments to the speaker, so we will share those with her. And also, you can give feedback for the host, which is for me. So, okay, we are almost done with the feedback form. And make sure you just fill your own form and do not share it with the friends who haven't joined the webinar. So let's make it like authentic, and certificates are only given to the one who have participated throughout the webinar. So and fill this feedback form. So yes, we are done with the feedback form, and I'm going to share the link with you in the comment section. Okay, so alright, so everyone, I have sent a link in the chat box. So kindly fill it. We have got zero responses so far. So only the people who fill the feedback form will be eligible to receive the certificates. So kindly fill the feedback form, or link I am giving in the live chat. Okay, so I have got two responses so far, like four responses: Jiva, Carla, Nariza, Ubeng, Carolyn, K. Mubarak Ali, and the list is like increasing. So thank you everyone for watching the webinar. I hope you have learned a lot, and we will send you certificate within a day or two. Like it will take some time. So kindly fill the feedback form. If you have some problem with the feedback form, if you cannot open it, or if you are not able to see the link, so kindly tell me, and you should be here from the YouTube app, or directly come on YouTube from Google Chrome or some browser. So I am giving the link in the live chat. If you click on it, it's actually the link of a feedback form. You have to fill it in order to receive the certificate. Certificate will not be sent to you immediately. It will take a day or two. We will update about it on our Facebook page. So kindly fill the form, and only the people who fill the form will get the certificate. And make sure you write your correct name with all the capitalization and spacing, so because it will be directly copied from there and pasted on your certificate. The link is in live chat box. If you can see, I am posting it again, like https colon slash forms slash, and there is the code. So kindly click on it or copy it and paste it in your browser, and then you will be able to fill up the form. And it's mandatory. Without it, you will not be able to receive the form. So kindly fill it as soon as possible. As the live session will end, we will also remove the link. All right, we have got 78 responses, 81 responses. Okay, so thank you for filling the form. And once you have filled the form, you can leave the live session because we are basically done with the webinar. And I'm just waiting for you guys to fill the forms. And if you have any problem, then you can tell me. And also, uh, keep in touch with our Facebook page. It's also named as Linguistics and Pedagogy Webinars. We will post about the certificates, like how many have been sent and how many are left, and about the new webinars which will happen hopefully. So we will also update about them over there. So thank you everyone for participating and engaging and being interactive and also asking the questions. It like really makes the session wonderful and interesting. And thank you everyone for joining. I hope you are filling the form and nobody has got any problem related to the form. So 102 responses I've got so far. And the certificate, you will get the certificate on the email address which you provide in the feedback form, and the name will be like copied from there and pasted on the certificate. So make sure you like uh, keep the spacing and all of the things correct. So the capitalization especially, so you get your correct name on the certificate. You can also edit it if you think you have made some mistake. You can go back to the form and edit it. So thank you everyone. I'm receiving comments like thank you and good night. So good night to you all also, and thank you very much for participating in the webinar. And I also hope to see you soon. Okay, so I will be like showing some comments over here to you all finish up sending your forms. Okay, so question is, where is the link? Link is in the live chat. If you cannot see the live chat, then kindly uh, come to this video from the YouTube app on your mobile, or if you are online from desktop or laptop or something like that. So make sure you open the Google Chrome browser, and then open the YouTube, and then you will be able to see the live chat, or the live chat, and also the link of the form. And make sure you are logged into your Google account and your Chrome or even in YouTube, and while filling the form, so that you can have access. All right, good night. Thank you. I will try my best to have more of such sessions for you guys, and thank you very much for joining. Okay, so I hope you all can see the link of the form. Okay, done. If you are done filling the form, you can comment done, and then you can like go do your own things, whatever you want. Like, we are done with the webinar, so you are free to go. If you have filled the feedback form, and you will be receiving feedback form after like within a week. If there are too many forms filled, like you have to prepare a lot of certificates, so it will take time accordingly. So you will be receiving the certificates on your email, and also we will update about certificates on our Facebook page. So we have got 146 responses so far. So right, so I'm doing the link again. So you can leave the webinar if you have filled the feedback form. Okay, so I can see 38 live viewers still. So thank you everyone, and hope to see you in the next webinar. Okay, so if you have filled the feedback form, thank you very much. You will be receiving your certificate within a week, and we will update about the certificates on our Facebook page. Facebook page is named as Linguistics and Pedagogy Webinars. You can check it out. And thank you, everyone. And there are also other recordings of the webinars which are available on our channel, YouTube channel. uh, of course, you won't be receiving certificates from them because we only give certificates for the live webinars. So if you watch a recording, you will learn a lot, hopefully. And but there won't be any certificate for those recorded sessions. So thanks once again, and hope to see you in next webinars. And thank you very much. Where is the form? If you go to the live chat where you just commented, Linguistics and Pedagogy Webinars is commenting a link. That link will lead you to the feedback form. Once you click on that link, a form will open, and you have to fill that form in order to receive the certificate. Okay, so thank you everyone. And now I am going to end the session, and I hope to see you on the next webinars.